Hello everybody, it's Duckferin07 with another brew, another great, hugely fun list with the card you haven't ever seen in a modern so far. A card is called the Overscale Guardian. So this is a 7 mana dragon, 4/4 flying haste, but it says it costs 1 mana less to cast for each land card in your graveyard. And we are playing Burning Inquiry, we are playing Goblin Lore, we are playing a huge number of fetch lands, and I was able to consistently get 4 lands into the graveyard by turn 3, and that means that you can play this on turn 3 as a 3 mana 4/4 flying haster, which is pretty sick. Actually, and the decks can't raise this. On later turns, like turn 4/5, if you draw it, it's mostly just a 2 mana 4/4 flying haste. It's incredible. It's a creature from Modern Horizons 1 and or 2, not sure, whatever. But creature is surprisingly good in this deck, and I played a huge number of games with the Hollow One lately, similar versions to this, and you will notice that you see here a Goblin Bushwhacker. So I decided that I don't like the Asmo package in the usual Hollow One lists, and decided to go for the Goblin Bushwhacker. So in the first version, I played Burning Tree Emissary, 4 Burning Tree Emissaries with 4 Reckless Bushwhackers. It was performing nicely, so Burning Tree Emissary is a 2/2 creature that gets you 2 mana when it enters the battlefield, and it's good when paired with Bushwhackers. The Emissary is better paired with the Reckless Bushwhacker, but after some testing, I decided it's better to play. It's better to play Memnite and the Goblin Bushwhacker, because Goblin Bushwhacker can be cast for 1 mana to trigger Vengevine, which can be meaningful sometimes. And Memnite can be used with Neonate and Vengevine on turn 1 to return a Vengevine from the graveyard turn 1. And this thing happened 2 or 3 times during this last league I played, which ended up 4-1. So I had some pretty crazy, pretty aggressive hands. Uh, it was a pretty cool gameplay, but I want to just show you the last league I played with 4-1. We'll go through some wins from the other leagues. Most of the leagues I played, like I just played a huge number of 3-2 leagues. Like I always win 3 games, and just 2 out of these 3 games I draw bad, and my inquiries and Goblin Lores doesn't work. So I think playing this deck or similar decks to this one, you just have a huge chance to finish 3-2 or 2-3, because it's just when you start when you have a good hand with this deck, you cast Inquiry, and some crazy stuff begins to happen. You can't really lose the game. So in the 50% of cases, you will just win. And I'm just my thought with this list. So the Asmo was sometimes very awkward in the beginning. So if you have it on a turn 1, you're like thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't cast the Inquiry on turn 1. Maybe I should wait until turn 2 so I can cast the Inquiry, and then maybe try to cast the Asmo of the if it stays in the hand. So you wait turn 2, you play Inquiry on turn 2, and then you discard your Asmo, and then you realize you waited for nothing, a full turn. So you're a turn slower now, and you didn't do anything on your first turn. You could have played the Inquiry, get the Hollow One on the field, or get the Adept, whatever. So it's a it's a really awkward in a lot of situations. So I decided I want to go faster. I want to be faster. I want to be more aggressive, and that's where the Memnites jumped in to be able to trigger Vengevine on turn 1, and the Bushwhackers as a replacement for this one. I played 4 of them in the first stages. So. There was there is another card which is really good in this archetype. I'll talk about it. And in the first versions, I played of Ox of Agonas and 17 lands. But we will see some games with the Ox, of course, in the replace later. But I decided I want to go really aggressive, and you know that Asmo and Ox are cards that are good in the late game. So there are plenty of games where you just don't, you are not able to win on turn three, and because you don't have a perfect hand every time, and then you have Ox. So you cast the Inquiries, you cast the Lore, Ox goes into the graveyard, then you play the Ox, draw another three cards. If the opponent kills the Ox, you will draw again three cards. So it's the infinite loop. You can draw with infinite cards. You can grind out any deck in Modern. I grinded out like Soul Herder, Coco Soul Herder. I grinded out four color Omnat and all the possible grinded decks in the Modern. So Ox can really grind any deck in Modern when undisturbed. Even it can go through the Graveyard Hate. I played four of them. I played four of the Ox in the latest version because I think the Ox was so important for the archetype to give you that after you cast the lore and you discard all your hollow ones that have nothing to do. Then you have the Ox in the graveyard, and you can next turn continue doing some powerful stuff. So I played the four Ox in this version, but as I went into more and more aggressive version of this list, I uh, I turned to the card I found long ago and always thought it was interesting. And so this means instead of on your turn of four after you done played all the stuff from your hand, and then on your turn four instead of playing Ox, you are hoping to top deck this one and just slam 2 mana or 3 mana, whatever, 4/4 flying haster, which will then finish the game in few turns, so your opponent won't be able to deal with everything you put on the field. Okay, so Ox is definitely an option, but I just this one is also pretty good. I can't really say which one was. I can say the one was much better than the other, and but Ox was pretty good. It was often the best card in the deck, as Asmo is in regular versions. When you get to the late game, then you have like 4 or 5 food on the field. You cast Asmo, kill a lot of stuff and things like that. It's great in the late game, but I really want to focus on winning in the first 4 turns. So that's what I liked, and I didn't like the gameplay patterns Asmo forces you into sometimes, and that's when I decided I want to go very aggressive. I want to play the Bushwhackers, the Memnites, and trigger the Vengevine on turn one. Have like crazy hands, and just swarm your opponent into the first 2 3 turns. I think this is the way to play this deck. This is the most fun way, definite. And so there are 2 versions. One version is this one, and the other plays Ox instead of the Or Scale Guardian. And in the Ox version, I would probably go down a land and play 4 Ox. So these are the 2 versions. Sideboard is the same for each version. For the moment, Cascade is very popular again. So 3 shells on the board, and that's it. Okay, so we'll now watch a lot of games of these 2 versions of a deck. So we'll start with the last game in the last match in the last league. I went against Ragdos Cam and had some pretty brutal hand. So I will show you immediately what I like about this Memnite. I play Neonate, I discard Vengevine, I get Memnite back on turn 1. So this is pretty aggressive. So Vengevine on turn 1 attacking for 4, 6 power on the field. My opponent grieves me, but it doesn't matter. I already have 6 power on the field, and then I top deck the Bushwhacker. That's it. game over. You can't. You can't. You can recover from this. So it's 17 damage on turn two. I don't know. I don't think there is any other deck in modern that can do this. So is this deck is the only deck that could do this. My opponent could survive for a turn, but they decide to kill themselves because they can't survive this. Okay, so game two, a pretty crazy match. Okay, so game two went even crazier. I had two Leylines of the Void in the starting hand. I decided to put just one. I need a second in my hand uh, to make my chances bigger for not discarding the hollow one. It was a good decision. I leave both hollow one in hands. I cast both of them, discard Avenge one in the process. And attack again for 4 on turn 1 will 12 power on turn 1 and Leyline of the Void. I think so. This is one of the pretty sick actually. One of the sickest hands you can have with this deck or with any deck really. So 2 games in a row, I'm attacking for. Um, I'm attacking for like 14 damage on turn 2. Sorry, 16 total. 16 damage on turn 2. There is no other deck in Modern that can do this. Okay, I went for the Neonate. I find the second 1-drop Flame Adept. I return second Vengevine and attack my opponent for lethal. My opponent had a pretty good hand. Another Terminate, a lot of removals, Ragavan, but yeah, they can't deal with this much stress. It's just crazy hands. And and there are really a huge number of matches just ending up like this. Your opponent not being able to deal with this huge amount of stuff going on. Okay, so this game, I think I played against a Living End opponent. I went for the Adept on turn 1. Had to mulligan to 6. So it wasn't ideal. I had the 3 street rates on the turn 2, so pretty good against the Living End, but still not good enough. Unfortunately, my draws with the street rates were awful. I go for the Inquiry in hope to maybe discard the Vengevine. I didn't discard the Vengevine, unfortunately. I did discard the Memnite. My opponent got rid of the Goblin Lore, unfortunately, which was the last card in my deck, doing something. So yeah, I wasn't able to recover from this, and even if I was missing 1 mana to play the Guardian this turn, but even if I was able to play it, it wouldn't help. Yeah, my opponent got this one. But I was ready for some more crazy starts. I started with 3 Leyline of the Voids on the field and Burning Inquiry on turn 1, putting the Rootwalla in the play. If I somehow got the second Rootwalla, it would probably be even better hand than the previous one against the Scam. Okay, so you will just see a huge number of the games ending up like this. I just pump my Rituala, play the Shellis. My opponent discards the Neonate, so unfortunately I can't put the Vengevine back this turn, but so I just pump the Rituala again, attack for 3. And my opponent definitely needs 2 Force Figures to have solutions for all the hate on the field. So I get Vengevine into the graveyard, find another 2-drop, return both Vengevines, attack my opponent for 9 damage, which means they can't fetch, and it means it's game over. So, time for game 3. It's great just how quick these games are. So you can just finish the league in. You can finish the league in I don't know, very short time. And I was again with decent start. Had the Leyline, had the Adept. Goblin Lore in hand can be pretty aggressive. My opponent immediately finds the answer for the Leyline. I cycle the street rate first to decide what I want to do this turn. I just go for trying to draw into maybe Chalice or some other hate piece. I could have gone for the hollow one here for 1 mana. I decided it's better to play the Adept. Adept can potentially bring more damage, and I was definitely right. This was uh, this was the situation, a decision that won me this game. So I went for the lore. My opponent doesn't have the outburst on this turn, and I drove into Inquiry, which was kind of my plan here, or just pump the Rituala if I don't, and attack for lethal on the same turn. So amazing 15 damage on a turn 3 with these adepts. That's it. I was also able to play the hollow one, but no need, of course. Had a blood moon for next turn maybe. So that's it. Okay, pretty aggressive two games to start the video with. Okay, so match three. I started from the last match, so but okay, so this is not the fastest hand. There is no point in playing the Rootwalla on turn one in this kind of situation. It's just no good. I start to fetch, so this means if after these lures, if I'm left with Guardian in hand, I'll probably be able to cast it easily. I get my Vengevine into the field and have two 1-drops. But since they are both Rootwall, I think my best chances are to play the Goblin Lore again next turn. Okay, I start with the Adept. I don't want to discard it, and I hope to discard one of the Rootwallas. I discard both of them. Now I'm able to return my Vengevine and cast both Rootwallas and have another Vengevine to put into play next turn. Okay, my opponent goes for the Kaldra. They don't attack, but they don't know that I have a kill in hand. Unable for them to block with Kaldra, so Kaldra doesn't mean anything. I get another Vengevine into play. Another Neonate discards the Wonder for me. I even had I went Burning Inquiry instead of to pump the Adept and mess up their hand. But that's it. That was lethal, more than a lethal. I had 18 damage on turn 4. Flying, all flyers, they can't even attack. They can even block with Kaja Sentinel. So that's it. Okay, pretty aggressive. Continuing, just showing how aggressive this deck really is and how fun is to play this. I don't think there is a more fun deck in modern currently to play than this one for me. Okay, game two I started well with the Adept, Ancient Grudge in hand, Goblin Lower, so I have a lot of things going on. I have the Grudge in case my opponent decides to go for the attack. Uh, I play the lore, so I'm left with both hollow ones in hand. I attack with Adept for 5. I have Grudge in my graveyard for the next turn in case they go for the Hammer Equip. It's just a skill, so no blocks. They got Urza Saga on the field, but I was able to attack with my Hollow One. I decided to leave mana for the Grudge if necessary, and they didn't have a hammer yet. So I was able to put a Vengevine on the field too this turn. Just discard it with Neonate, the best play, and still have the Ancient Grudge waiting in the graveyard. This means I go for lethal this turn, they have to block, and I have the Ancient Grudge in case they do something, so it's pretty much game over. I also have a blocker in this Neonate, and that's it. Okay, that was game one. My opponent conceded after that. Uh, okay, so sorry, did we just watch this? Did I just? Yeah, we were just. Sorry. I'm showing the same game again. We just went through this. Okay, so that was my Hammer Time opponent, and now we go to the fourth match of this league. Okay, so I always go for usually go for the steam vents on the turn 1 if I can. Unfortunately, not bringing back the Vengevine on turn 1, but you can't always do. You can't always do that. So going for the lore. Again, not bringing back the Vengevine, but it's okay. Already have one in the graveyard. I was able to cast. Okay, so in this situation, you will see just if I went for the. If I had a bit more luck, I would be able to. With the lures, I was left with the 3 lands in my hand in a lot of different situations. I would be able to cast the Guardian next turn. So at this turn, I was able to cast the Guardian. I think it's a pretty aggressive play against the Merfolk deck. Merfolk deck can't deal with this 4/4 flying haster. They tried to raise me, but they are not able to do this. I was able to. You see how good Memnite here is. You can just more easily trigger the Vengevines, and I still have mana left either to mess up their hand with Inquiry or to pump the Rootwalla. And that's it. Too much for my opponent, Guardian. This in this league, this was the first situation where you could see the Guardian do. Where you could see the Guardian be really good. It was a card that definitely decided this matchup. They could maybe deal with Vengevines, but they can't deal with this Guardian. Okay, so game 2. I think Guardian was also deciding card for this matchup. Okay, so starting second, I have my Fury from the sideboard. I just fetch my Steam Vents. I think no Steam Vents isn't ideal against Merfolk, but I think the Wonder is also pretty good. So I just go for it. I went for lore. Find the second Guardian. So discarded 1 land in the process. This means I can go Guardian on turn 3, which is pretty sick. It's a 3/3. It's a 4/4 flying haster for 3 mana. It's pretty crazy. So I just it's crazy. It's really crazy. I just don't have other words for this. It's a 3 mana 4/4 flying haste. I just can't describe how good this is. My opponent tries to raise me. But I have another 3 mana flying haster. I could pay 2 mana for it, but there was no point in sacrificing the fetch here. So that was it. My opponent can't block. I have lethal anyway. In any way, they try to block here. So that's it. That was a win against the Merfolks. Okay, so rather than watching this loss, I will just show you some more wins from the previous leagues because it's just those wins are so exciting to watch. These are so fun and much more crazier than the losses. So I will just focus on that this time. So again, I go for the Steam Vents. Unfortunately, I discard my hollow one in this situation. I also discarded the Guardian, but that is the deck. Sometimes you just and you can see how good Memnite is here. So Memnite is in another creature for this situation that you can play. It's not just the hollow one to trigger the Vengevine, and it's just crazy good in this kind of situation. So being able to trigger the Vengevine is so important, so much better than triggering Vengevine next turn. Unfortunately, I discarded my Guardian turn before. It would be so good. It would be so good in this matchup. My opponent does some crazy stuff. Goes for a Titan on turn 3. So basically, some usual Titan stuff. I think they, yeah, I think they won on this same turn or not maybe. Maybe it wasn't this same turn. Okay, we'll just watch till the end, of course. There's a Dryad, there's the Valakut, and yeah, I concede nothing to do here. A too strong start from the opponent. Okay, so I had good stuff going on, but stuff my opponent was doing was just more powerful for at this moment. I go for the inquiry and do the dream start, the whole two hollow ones into Vengevine on turn one, and the turn two went for the Bushwhacker, and it's a lethal damage on turn two. So I don't know how many decks in Modern exactly can win on turn two, but not many. Belcher is maybe one of them, and it's a turn two win. So turn two win. I forgot to screenshot this. I will screenshot this. It's a turn two win in Modern, so it's pretty crazy. I can't remember when last time I saw the turn two win. Uh, the deck is so fun to play, so explosive, and with the Bushwhacker, it's just way more fun. If I top decked the Asmo in this situation, I would rip apart my deck probably. If that was the reason why I would lose this game, which would often happen after drawing into. Um, after drawing into Asmo and having it dead in hand. So again, a situation where I'm able to uh, theoretically able to trigger the Vengevine with Memnite for just 0 mana. And now I go for the Ancient Grudge on the Amulet. They just packed for they had didn't have a good hand, didn't draw into anything because probably because of the inquiry. I played kind of removed the sanctuary from their hand and a lot of these lands. So it was I was able to put back everything into play, put them on 2 life, close to lethal, and they didn't draw into anything good. So that was it. Win against Amulet Titan after them just destroying me on game one. I uh, I returned with the same measure on in games 2 and 3. This deck can just win against everything. It's mostly when it loses to itself. Okay, so always going for the Steam vents on turn one, as you can see here. In a lot of situations where I can't do this, I do this because the wonder payoff is just too big. And again, you can see the Neonate Memnite going on. So returning Memnite, having Memnite in this deck, along with the Goblin Lore on turn two, with the Hollow One Memnite, you can trigger the Vengevine, and with Neonate Memnite, you can trigger Vengevine on turn one, which is pretty crazy. And I just really love this. Okay, so went for sorry lore, but unfortunately discarded my Hollow One. I had the Bushwhacker here, which would be pretty crazy amount of damage. My opponent had the Shells, so Bushwhacker was countered and Rootvala, but I got the Vengevine back, which was the whole idea. And my opponent is on one, can't really do anything from this point, so that's it. Another win against Control. They got me in the game too. We'll see that too. Okay, pretty decent hand actually. So I really like having one of Memnite in these situations with the street rate, lore, a lot of crazy stuff can happen. Unfortunately, I didn't discard anything good from my hand, just lore, which I really wanted to keep. It's okay. Sometimes in this situation against these control decks, you can just go the aggro beatdown plan, so just hard cast the Vengevine from your hand. Other small creatures, they also need solution for them too, so it's not easy. Uh, so I have the Guardian in my hand, 3 lands at this point, but I was 1 mana away from casting this Guardian. Unfortunately, my opponent had the Endurance on the attack, which means my Guardian is stuck in hand in this situation, but it's just that sometimes happen against against the graveyard hate. Graveyard decks lose to graveyard hate all the time. It's nothing strange. My opponent had another endurance, unfortunately, which is like the best scenario what they could have in this game. So I went for another neonate, tried to fill my graveyard again. I find Havermind for the eventual graveyard hit, but they didn't play the Rest in Peace as expected, just Endurances, which was fine. I was able. They had everything in this game. I wasn't able to raise this, and that's it. Okay, so my opponent won the game too with the 2 Endurances. Uh, and me not having the ideal hand. Okay, so I boarded in the Blood Moon and I kept Blood Moon hand. So I go for the cycle here, and it's you got to go for the cycle. If I didn't go for the cycle, I wouldn't know that Vengevine is on top of my deck. I could have possibly played the Neonate and ruined my chances of returning the Vengevine on turn 2. Just Blood Moon is so good here because your opponent has to deal with Blazing Rotwala and Vengevine on turn 2. They again have the endurance, unfortunately, but they have to have a solution for this. If they don't, they have to play removal from their hand, and then they really just can't deal with. Blood Moon too. So that's it. My opponent has the hole, and I go for the Blood Moon definitely in this situation. My opponent not able to do anything about this. I play all of my small creatures. Blazing Rituala hit well in this kind of situation, so hitting for 3 is no joke. I was able to play one of my hollow ones, pump one of the Rutvala, and present lethal for the next turn. And that's it. My opponent, of course, really can't find a solution in a situation like this with no basic lands. It's impossible for them. So that's it. Win um, against control opponent. Okay, this was I had 2 losses here. I had 2 losses here, so this was a 3-2 league, very decent. Most of the leagues, to be honest, was a 3-2 league. So these are just the chances when playing this deck that you will get 2 games out of 5. You will get bad hands, not being able to win. So again, you will see pretty good hand. When my hand is good, I mostly go for uh, the Steam Vents. I did it on turn 2, so it didn't matter that much. I decided to go for the lore because it's a bigger payoff if I left with the Guardian in hand. Unfortunately, I discard again my Guardian, and these lores and inquiries really help casting this Guardian. So I go for the Adept and the Bushwhacker, and I got the land from my deck to be able to cast the Guardian for 3 mana, and my opponent can't deal with this Guardian. So a Guardian directly winning me the game against Death Shadow matchup, which would be hard to recover from. They can't push this, they can't bolt this, they can't drown and lock this, they can do anything. So it's a great threat. And yeah, that was it. A Guardian once again showing just how good potential he is in this kind of aggressive deck. Just turn 4, you already have a lot of stuff going on, and then turn 3 or turn 4, you slam uh, 3 mana, 4/4 flying haste. It's huge. It's huge. Your opponent can't deal with this in this against this kind of deck, which is already forcing you to waste and use your resources in the early turns. So it's a huge, huge threat, and it will win you games like this one. Okay, so match two. I think the Guardian was the key again. Okay, in match two, I bring in the Blood Moon. It's a dimmer deck, but they aggressively fetch into the shocks. So I want to up my chances of trying to draw another hollow one. My hand was very good. I didn't want to discard any of the cards in this situation, so I just let the neonate die. I prioritize the fetches here because of the Guardian. I was left with one hollow one in hand, which was decent. This unfortunately discard the second one. So there is no waiting with this deck. I had several options, of course. I was I was able to like play my creatures, but decided to go for the Blood Moon. Okay, so I decided I had a lot of stuff in the hand and a lot of options. I had the option to play the Guardian again, but it didn't do much. It would just be a blocker for the Murktide. I had plenty of blockers, so I decided to test my luck first with Burning Inquiry. Unfortunately I discarded the hollow one, so I wasn't able to play it, and I was left with not the Guardian in hand. I can play next turn when my opponent will probably attack with Murktide and leave the Shadow back. So I have the Guardian for the next turn as a surprise, and this turn I can just play the Bushwhacker as a blocker because I really want the option to have the Adept on the next turn. So I'm able to play the Guardian for 2 mana and Inquiry to pump my Adept to present lethal. My opponent plays another blocker, and I'm able to just play the Guardian for 2 mana, 4/4 haster. Even got the Rootwalla off, which is not important, but I just attack with all these 4/4s. And this one has Menace, this one has Flying, so this one is going through, and my opponent just can't block these guys because of the Menace. And that's it. So the Guardian winning me the both games against the Dimmer Shadow. Just a surprise, a 2 mana 4/4 attacker. Your opponent definitely won't count you having this kind of effect, this kind of card. It's incredibly strong in right situation. In this shell, it's playable. It's so good and so cool. Just can't stop playing this deck. I played a huge amount of games with a Hollow One, and both of these versions using the Bushwhacker. Bushwhacker is so good. Ox is also good, and the Guardian is. I can't decide which version I want to play first because they are all so fun, and I had just an amazing time playing this deck. Not all the leagues were wins. Most of them were 3-2, and I had a version. The worst version I tried was with Underworld Breach. You know that Underworld Breach, when you can cast the Inquiry from your graveyard and then recast the hollow ones from your graveyard for the 0 mana, which is pretty cool. But I think it's a very fun option to have. But I didn't get the build right, and I got the 0/4. And this was I tried it. It was a 0/4. Didn't get any wins. I was close though, but I didn't get the build right. So didn't get the deck working. But that is something I will try again in the future. Okay, so this is another 3-2 league. We can watch this. I think this was the version of the OX. I think I have better. I think I have better games with the Ox. I can show. Just a second. Sorry. Okay, this is it. This was one of the. This all were the Hollow One games. This was the first version of a deck. Playing Burning Tree Emissary instead of Memnite and the Reckless Bushwhacker. It's everything else is the same. I just played Emissary instead of Memnite and Reckless Bushwhacker instead of Goblin Bushwhacker, which is pretty similar, but Goblin Bushwhacker and the Memnite ended up being much better. So, but the gameplay is very similar. So I get the two Rootwalas of my Goblin lore. I'm able to attack with Neonate and have good stuff going on for the next turn. And you will see in these situations just how good this Ox was when grinding. So I just try to attack for maximum damage here, but unfortunately my opponent has the Fire Eyes. Didn't have the um, they didn't have. Unfortunately, I discarded my Hollow One. I got the Ox into the graveyard, so I was in a pretty good situation. Didn't care for what my opponent was doing. Really, I don't care if they cast the Rhinos, whatever. You know, I have like a free 4/4s in my deck, more than my opponent has. So I was just wanted them to play the Rhinos before I do anything. So I just it's a good. I wasn't able to do this before attack because I was expecting Rhinos from my opponent. So theoretically, against some other deck, I could play the this before attack, burning the sorry the inquiry, and it would be a pretty good attack with the reckless bushwhacker and the emissary. And but I was expecting rhinos from my opponent, so there was no point in trying to do this. I played this after combat to get some additional blockers for these rhinos. And Ox is also a very good one here. So I just draw another card with Neonate, so I'm fine. My opponent killing all these guys. I have another Ox from the top. My opponent doesn't attack into Ox because they're too afraid of the Ox. Of course, I go for the lore. I want to just fill my graveyard as I go for the adept first, and I just decide to play my second lore in this situation. I want to get my graveyard bigger and find even more Oxes because I just plan to draw my whole deck with the Oxes and put all the Hollow Ones, all the Vengevines in, and just beat my opponent's Furies and Rhinos. So my opponent goes for the attack, doesn't kill the Ox with the Fury. I don't know why, but yeah, I was able to kill one of the Rhinos and just recast both of my Oxes. In this situation, pretty good. Also had Bushwhacker. Yes, I played my Bushwhacker. Unfortunately, it's the Rhinos deck against some either deck. I would be able to attack for huge damage here. But yeah, kind of in a defensive situation, so I have to I forgot I have a fetch on the field. I didn't fetch, so I was forced to remove some other cards from the graveyard I didn't want maybe, but it was okay. My opponent attacks again. I have plenty of these jumpers. I can block with Ox again and recast Ox once again. So again, I'm able to put a huge number of these jumpers on the field. So I played the emissary, I played the bushwhacker. Um, I go for another inquiry, and then I play my ox to trigger the both vengevines. I discard another one of these Oxes, and now I'm able to start attacking and also pressuring my opponent, same as what they did to me. So I just decide to play everything I have to put all in. And in this moment, I have just 5 cards in my hand. Sorry, in this situation, I forgot I have a fetch. I should have just fetched. But here I fetched to see the 2 cards in my deck, and I knew that I have a Reckless Bushwhackerian, which that was pretty important. Because I had 2 turns to attack, so that meant I don't want to play a Scrapwork Mat on the next turn, but save it for the last turn where I played Bushwhacker, so I can return the Vengevines. So I put a huge number of the threats in. I was able to attack with all my Vengevines. I don't care if Vengevines die. I have the Bushwhacker and the Mud for the last turn. My opponent put some jumpers in. Of course, they blocked the Vengevines. So I got some damage through. It's okay, and I have the 2 creatures for the last big turn, so I just play the Mud. I choose not to draw a card. I play the Bushwhacker, returned both Vengevines into play, and then with 0 cards in hand, I attack for around 50 damage. Which is of course too much, so pretty crazy game. And so this is just, I wanted to show you this exact match from the when I started testing some bushwhackers in the hollow one, and hollow wine and bushwhackers were just really good in a lot of situations, but they ended up being even better with the Memnites, and just trying to be more aggressive. I like the both versions with the Guardians and the Oxes. I will leave to you to decide which one is better. Considering this gameplay, you saw just how Ox can grind out you just kind of, when you have the Ox, you don't care if your opponent has some crazy stuff going on, because if they don't have the graveyard hits, they can't beat the Ox. It's unbeatable. So you're drawing 3 cards almost every second turn. They have to kill it at some point. Then it will die. You will play against it again. You will play it from the graveyard again. It's a huge blocker. It's very hard to deal with. And another opponent on the rhinos, you will notice these rhinos are just hugely popular right now. Everyone is playing rhinos, so if you're playing on Magic Online pack, your Cascade Hate, Chalice of the Void on the sideboard. At this moment, I didn't even have the Chalice. So my opponent has the Fury, has the Rhinos, which is the best thing they could have at this point, and this was kind of my game plan, so there's nothing I could do here. I lose this game 1, but now I know what I'm playing against. Again, I have to mulligan. Sorry, was this is yeah, I'm showing the same game. Sorry, this was a game 2 loss, and we'll now see the game 3. Okay, so pretty standard hand. Keeping 1 landers is nothing strange with this deck. Didn't want to lose too much life, so I left 1 street rate in hand before. Okay, so in this situation, I go for the Goblin Lore, hoping to discard my second Vengevine. I do. Unfortunately, didn't. I didn't. If I succeeded to, like, if I succeeded to discard the Rootwalla, I would be able to Fury and return my Vengevines. In this situation, I decided to just play the Fury for 0 mana, and to return my Vengevines and start attacking. This means my opponent kind of has to play the Rhinos next turn to be able to block these Vengevines. but I have the inquiry. Of course, they have to play the footfalls before attack, but this way I pump my adept 2, so I'll get the 4 damage through. I play I play the Mutt, and Mutt discards my Rotwala, which means I can cast my Rotwala and this way trigger another Vengevine. Sorry, two Vengevines. So this is basically turn 4, all 4 Vengevines in play attacking. My opponent definitely can deal with this. Sorry, in this version, I played one off Scrapwork Mutt. Scrapwork Mat was pretty good for me. I liked it, and it's another one-off card that you will often discard and can get use out of it. So it's pretty good. Unfortunately, it's a unearthed ability, not the escape, so it doesn't count as casting creatures. But one-off, it's kind of okay. I just wanted to test some different stuff, and that's it. Okay, so we'll just watch a few more games. This was another 3-2 league. I think like 90% of the leagues I played were 3-2 with the all versions except for that Underworld Breacher version that was really bad one. Okay, so this isn't that brutal of a start, but it's a turn 1 Hollow 1, which is decent, of course. But I draw into my Adept. I drew into my Flameblade Adept, so kind of it's better than just playing the Hollow one. And this means turn 2 I can pump my Adept, and then I hoped to draw into one more Street Raid to be able to cast the Hollow one and the Bushwhacker on the same turn, but yeah, unfortunately I didn't get it. It was close. It was close. Okay, I think this was the first league I played with the Hollow one, and I was really close to 4-1. I will show you the one loss from this league. It was pretty exciting, and like it was kind of pretty close to impossible one. So in this situation, uh, discarding the Vengevine and being able to play my Bushwhacker. Good thing is, in these situations, Vengevine always comes first into play, so it always gets the ability from the my opponent has the Adept has the mana, so I was okay with them trading with Shardless for it. So they just suspend another Footfalls, and I'm able to go for the Bushwhacker again. I don't care if they kill one of my Bushwhackers, it's fine. I get a lot of these small creatures in for a lot of damage. They resolve their footfalls from the suspend. Okay, so I got another Bushwhacker returning the Vengevine and then pumping the whole team again. It's pretty good example of just how sometimes Bushwhacker can win games too, just by pumping these small creatures, this small team. It's pretty aggressive, and it's working very good in this shell. You saw a lot of iterations I played through this league and how the deck developed, and the two final lists I came up in the end. So one plays 18 lands and 3 guardians, and the other one plays 17 lands and 4 OX Agonas. Other than that, it's completely the same. And okay, so was this a game 2 or 1? I forgot. I talked too much and then I forgot. I think this was game 2, but I'll just check it for a brief moment. I'm not sure. Maybe it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't. I'm still not sure, to be honest, but it's okay. I go for the inquiry. Okay, so in a lot of these situations, while I play the emissary, I'll be like start with the emissary, have one creature. You see, like having emissary on turn 1 after you discard Vengevine from Inquiry on turn 1, having turn 2 Emissary into Bushwhacker can be pretty aggressive. So I decided in this situation I didn't go for a land draw. I decided to wait for a turn, try to do something bigger, maybe pitch cast this Fury. So it was a decent situation. My opponent goes for the innate. It's an easy discard. I opted to go for the Ox. I was able to cast Ox in this situation, so I had plenty of options here. So I was able to Burning Tree Emissary also works well with Goblin Lore. So you're able to go Emissary, cast Lore, then maybe. Uh, accidentally cast the Blazing Grotvala and get another creature to trigger the Vengevines. Also, Lore can trigger the uh, discard the Vengevines. So in this situation, the most epic play would be like casting the lore, discarding one or two Vengevines, then playing the Burning Tree Emissary first, of course, then discarding one or two Vengevines, leaving the Fury in your hand, then pitch casting the Fury to kill the opponent's Fury and getting back your Vengevines, but it wasn't necessary to risk like that, so I decided to just cast the Burning Tree Emissary, pitch cast Fury my first, then try to play the Goblin Lore, just put these Vengevines into the graveyard. So for the next turn, I was okay with this, and my plan worked. We got both Vengevines into the field. I didn't want to risk too much by playing those. Okay, so I got the lore. I got the ox. Sorry. So I didn't want to bother with casting spells from my hand. I just wanted to draw fresh new cards, get back my Vengevines, and then my opponent is forced to use their rhinos in a bad manner to like fight with my Vengevine, which is pretty good situation for me. And once again, you could see the Ox just outvaluing the Rhinos. They have another bounce spell. They get through for a lot of damage. Fortunately, they didn't have the new tech everyone is playing. The pump spell. I forgot the name. Okay, so I got the Ox again, and Ox is so great with the Rootwalla in your hand. So you discard Vengevines and get the free Rootwalla ability. It's so good. And then Rootwalla returns both Vengevines into play. It's really epic. And my opponent can't. I have the lethal attack here. They can't deal with this. It's too much. And that's it. Okay, sorry, that was the second game of this league, and we will not just watch this another win and loss in the last game. It will be the only loss I show because it was pretty fun, very close to doing the impossible with in one game. My opponent starts well with classic Springleaf, Ornithopter, Sigarda Aid on turn 1. I played Inquiry, tried to mess up with their hand, get the Vengevine on the field, so I able to attack for 8, but unfortunately I misclick, didn't attack with Vengevine. Of course, Vengevine is decent on the block too, where I can easily trigger it again next turn, but yeah, I really wanted to attack there. I just misclicked. Okay, so I go for the Rootwalla again, try to find another 1-drop to trigger the Vengevine again, and I did find it after drawing multiple cards, and I got the Vengevine on the field. 9 2 adept, so drew into 8 cards this turn. Pretty good, right? So able to attack with a lot of creatures here, put my opponent on 2. They can't deal with this, so it's another win against a Hammer Time opponent. Very quick. All these games were pretty quick. You go through for 1.5 hour. You go through the entire league. So it's incredible, satisfying gameplay. Okay, decent hand adepts. Sometimes these adepts can win the game pretty fast. They perfectly play into Giver of Thrones, which works well with my Fury. I decided to go for the Neonate first. I'm able to attack, to play my Hollow one. Pitchcast Fury, kill both of my opponent's creatures, cast the Hollow one for 1 mana. Of course, it's not over yet. My opponent has the Urza Saga on the field. You know that Urza Saga can win games by itself, but I got the Havar Might here. Unfortunately, it's not killing the Urza Saga right now. But yeah, I'll have it for next turn at least to deal with the Shadow Spear. Okay, I know that my opponent really wants to make both tokens here and the Shadow Spear, then try to equip it next turn and win game like that. So I just go for attack. They let it through. They equip Shadow Spear and attack. But I don't know if they knew that I can just block and kill the Shadow Spear, so they lose the trample. But whatever. Um, their construct tokens were still a 5/5, but they only had one in block because they attacked. It was probably a mistake. They could pump the one remaining token. Uh, you always have to expect some crazy stuff going on with this deck, so I was able to pump the adept, play the ox, pump the adept some more, get the Vengevine, trigger also have the Ancient Grudge in the hand for to win next turn, but it's not even necessary because I win immediately. And that's it. Okay, so this was my first league with the deck. It was really close to I was really close in all matches to winning, and this is the loss from the first league. I played against Magic Tonga, one of the trophy leaders at the moment. They're always on some Cascade decks or Calibrated Blast, some things that just go through the leagues fast. And I was really close to winning this match. Maybe I could have played this better. Maybe I could have. I didn't find. Sorry. Okay, so this was the thing I was talking about. This was the thing I was talking about. I had at that point with when I played the Neonate, I had the 4 Vengevines into the graveyard. I was discarding land. Had 1 mana available to draw into another 1 drop that would bring all the Vengevines back on turn 3 and win, but unfortunately I missed a win there. Maybe I should have played better on turn 2. Leave the Neonate in, I would have a better chance of doing this. Sorry, not a better chance, but I would definitely succeed in doing this on the next turn. So yeah, maybe a misplay there. So I was really close to win. After that, my opponent got stuff going on, and I couldn't beat that anymore. Okay, so I kind of didn't have any Chalice of the Void on the board at this point. I just put them before. Okay, I have the 2 creatures in to trigger the Rootvala, to trigger, sorry, the Vengevine on turn 2, which is pretty good. I need like Burning Tree Emissary or in new version Memnite for next turn to be able to play the Bushwhacker, get a lot of damage through. Okay, so I pump my adept, and that was a lethal damage for my opponent. Then that it was so unfortunate. I lost that game one, where I could have just played a little better. If I just played a little better, I would be able to get all the four Vengevines into play, which would be pretty epic. So I was hoping to discard some of the Vengevines in this situation, and keep the Hollow One in hand. But unfortunately, I discarded the Hollow One. I got, yeah, you see just how unlucky was I here. I had the two Rootwallas in hand, so I already played the Emissary. So this is exactly what my initial plan was, like play the Emissary, then play the lore, then try to trigger the Rootwalla, discard some Vengevines. I discarded the Vengevine in the process. I had the second one already in the grave, and my Goblin lore just missed the Rootwallas. Of course, that can happen, but it's a kind of deck you just count on it to happen. Like that's the way you want to cast your Rootwalla. And my opponent got the unfortunate got to one. Here casted the omniscience of it, and another, and that, yeah, that was it. I just conceded. Yeah, that was unfortunate because I had the Ox next turn, bringing back all three Vengevines, which would be lethal in case my opponent didn't have. It's not that often they just succeed to turn three immediately win the game on the spot. Yeah, so they often do this turn four. They like need a bigger board, something like this. But yeah, they had a pretty good hand too. So that's it. We went through incredible amount of games, and as I said, this is one version of a deck. Another one is playing the Ox instead of the Guardian, and one less land. So, but everything else is basically the same. Of course, you can remove few of the fetches for the Copperline Gorges in the Ox version, but you want as many fetches as possible in the Guardian version. So that's it. If I had incredible fun playing this, it's one of the most fun deck I played in a long time. These Guardians, the Bushwhackers, the Mem Knights, it's the dream come true to play for me, and it's a turn deck that can win on turn two. You saw during this gameplay, uh, I won on turn two. One time, I think. I think it happened another time, but I didn't find that match during this replays, and it's just incredible. It's just incredible fun, and deck that is very high powered, but of course deck will just lose to itself some of these games. You basically have like 70% at the start of the deck is tuned to have like a big odds over the 50% to have a great hand. So you will have like 70% to have that perfect unwinnable hand each every time you start a game, and incredible stuff is going on. You have to be careful to fetch that steam vents on turn one or turn two. You have to be careful to have the two green sources for your Vengevine. Sometimes a lot of stuff you need to take care about, like not playing cards from your hand if you're playing on Goblin Lore to be able to have bigger odds to keep the Hollow One in your hand. And there is a lot of stuff you need to learn while playing this deck, but it's incredible fun. It's incredibly cheap also. I think there is no expensive cards here, just Furies on the sideboards, maybe Chalice, but you don't need Chalice for the paper gameplay. It's just swarming with Cascade decks at the moment. That's the only reason why I have them. I don't know, Vengevines are not that expensive anymore, so it's incredibly cheap deck in modern. I think this is the best cheap deck in modern besides Burn. Let's say whatever. And this version is like this is definitely for me personally maybe one of the most fun decks in the format, especially this version with Guardian and Ox, either one. So that's it for this time. If you want to help the channel, click subscribe, click the like, and yeah, that's it. Until the next time.